Hello, my name's Aaron, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Marcos. Thanks for joining us at Case in Point, the watch podcast absolutely no one asked for, but maybe you were looking for it anyway. We're two dads, lifelong friends and casual watch obsessives who believe there's beauty in the well-made and well-worn. For us, watches are just the start, gateways to stories about design, craft, music, travel, and the people and places that shape us. We're not experts. We barely remembered to hit record, but we're here, holding time well and sharing what matters along the way. Welcome to Case in Point. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, man. It's so good to see you. It's been a quick week for us. We recorded a little bit later last week, but man, it's good to see you this morning.
Yeah, and I haven't even been anywhere since our last call.
Same for me, back and forth from work to home and work to home and work to home. That's about it.
Yeah,
Which is not all bad. I don't mind being at home and I don't mind being at work. So,
that's a good place to be for sure.
yep, it's very, very lucky. I'll tell you, it's a beautiful Sunday morning. We're recording on Sunday morning as we have on at least our first couple episodes. And then we were in the evening last week. And it's Mother's Day today. And here in Kentucky, it could not be a better day. The sun is shining. I still have a sweatshirt on. It'll be too warm for that soon. But this morning, I was out walking with the sweatshirt. It's a little bit chilly, and these are the best days to be in Kentucky. And I don't know if there's anywhere better than Kentucky to be in the springtime, in the fall time, when the sun's shining and it's not hot and humid.
I can definitely agree with that. I sort of feel like Kentucky in the transitional seasons is about perfect. Now, in the winter, it could be Minnesota, and in the summer, it feels like Alabama. But and it's gorgeous here too. Beautiful, beautiful morning. I have a heavier shirt, but by later today, it's going to be too hot for that. So yeah, gorgeous day in Denver for sure.
Pretty nice.
Yep.
Pretty nice. So what have you been up to this week?
Um, work and work, and obviously, when I can, looking at some watches. Yeah, been building out a really cool project I'm working on a website, and so that's been sort of taking up most of my hours. But it's like not unlike you, I enjoy my work. So yeah, good stuff.
Great. Great to be there. It was kind of a strange week here on campus. Last week was the week between the end of the spring semester and Monday will start the first half of the summer semester. So it was very quiet here, which is kind of nice as a chance to catch our breath, get some things cleaned up, get some things organized, catch up on a bunch of work that didn't get done at the end of the semester. So it was kind of a restful week for me, although I didn't really feel it. By Friday, I was pretty cooked. So
yeah. Are there still students on campus or?
So we had a few students in the building last week.
But there's a shift.
There is a shift, yeah. So last week, no classes. So if any students are going to escape home and then return for summer, a lot of them took the chance to do that. Next week, things will pick up more towards the summer pace, which is slower than the fall and the spring for sure. But we'll have more students around and be digging into some more projects.
Yep. I remember when I used to work at the University of Kentucky, there was that ebb and flow, and I can tell what seasons we're in depending on, the level of students on campus and that kind of stuff. And if, I always tended to go to work a little bit late, and so my parking situation was always a lot better in the summer.
Yeah, I think that's the truth for sure. And I think that's the same. I'm really lucky here in that I can park right next to our building. But for my wife who works on campus, whose office is more in the heart of campus, it can be a little bit of a scramble during the main academic year. A little easier for her now.
Yeah. What a cool setting. What a beautiful campus too.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great place.
I love it every time I'm able to make it back there.
Yeah.
And Felix had a little birthday party last night. His birthday's tomorrow, and so he had a little birthday party. And so his sisters sent me some pictures and so yeah, it looked like a beautiful evening in Berea as well yesterday. So
it was, yeah. Yesterday was another great day. We've had a string of them this week again, where it's been just a little bit cold but sunny, and to me, that's a dream come true.
yeah, that's like the little glimpse of time where it sort of feels a little bit like Colorado, but I've
That's right.
become
I
a
think
I've become a weather snob ever since coming out here. I don't want to put it out too much on the podcast because it's kind of the best kept secret, but Colorado weather is amazing. So yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with that, and look forward to getting back out there myself at some point. Although we don't have any trips planned, but we'll find our way before too long.
Yeah, I need to make that happen.
Yeah. So on the watch front for me today, as a wrist check, a little bit boring. I'm still wearing the VPC, same watch I wore last week when we did our check-in. I've had it on since. There's been no changes. But a little exciting news if folks listening to this podcast haven't had a chance to listen to this past week's Fratello Talks podcast. Thomas was on there as a writer of Fratello, and during the episode, he shared he was wearing a 3D printed model of the Type 39, the dive watch for this.
Oh, cool.
Um,
I love the
and
naming. So they're doing so Type 37 and then Type 39 will be the dive.
that's correct. Yeah, and I don't know
That's
if
so
there's a
cool.
if there's a letter that comes after Type 39, but it will be a 39 millimeter dive watch. I think that much is set. Although, don't hold me to it. I don't know that anything's 100% set in steel yet. Set in 3D printed plastic, I guess at this
Yeah.
point, as he's figuring it out. But one, it was great to see it on his watch, sort of this, plain gray slab of a watch head, but attached to the actual bracelet. But it does, not to talk about this watch too much again, but it really
No,
highlights
let's.
what I think is so special about this watch that and he did this same process with the Type 37. He made a 3D printed version and he wore it for quite a long time to try to figure out what changes could be made to make that watch fit really well on the wrist. And it's exciting that that's the approach he's taking again.
It's cool that he does that, but then that he's also sharing it. That's the part that's amazing is that he's, sort of revealed to followers and fans like their process. So is he also posting as many images and that kind of backstory like they did on the Type 37?
Not quite as much, and I doubt there'll be an article series again about this process or anything like that. I don't believe anything like that is in the works. Now, he does have a newsletter where he'll send out updates to people who sign up for that newsletter on the VPC website. And we've had one installment already that focuses on the new dive watch, which has the sketches that you shared on Instagram on the Case in Point Instagram channel. So we'll get
I
some
hope that was cool to do.
I bet. I'm sure. I don't think any of that is a secret.
Yeah.
So if he's sending it around to all the people that sign up for the newsletters, it's out there from more folks than us at this point. But yeah, I really think, and we'll get back to this when we talk about watches that we've been thinking about. It's I guess maybe a little confusing to me that it feels very special that he takes the time to wear these watches and make sure they fit well. And I see watches come out. Now, again, I'm judging by looks, which is not the best way to do it by far. But sometimes I see a watch and I think, I doubt that is going to fit very well. Or you hear hands-on reviews from folks or get to try on a watch yourself and think, this just doesn't really fit well on the wrist. So I appreciate that he makes that a priority.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously being extremely deliberate and intentional. But what's so cool about, again, is just that he's sharing that process with you all, as fans. I think that's the coolest part.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. And we touched on this in the very first episode of the podcast. All the stuff you can read and learn about watches, whether they're watches you own or watches you will never own and maybe never even see in person, that all adds such a level of pleasure to the hobby. And it's great because it doesn't cost you anything. You
Right.
can get into the internet and you can dive into websites and podcasts like this and different YouTube channels. And there is just an unlimited amount of information to learn. And it's all a blast. So yeah, his approach to sharing all this information, I think, is part of why that's going to be such a successful venture, not only at its start as it was, but moving forward.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wearing my Sunday Fun watch again. I'm wearing the Rowing Blazer Seiko 5 in blue with that little pop of red since it is Sunday. So yeah, that's my wristwatch check. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm wearing it on the Lincoln bracelet from Uncle Straps, which just completely transforms this watch experience from the Seiko the bracelet that comes with it. It's a great bracelet, but it's kind of on the low end of Seiko bracelets. This transforms this watch quite a bit. So yeah, love it.
Yeah, that's so great. I love when I see it, and you can certainly see that bright blue popping out pretty easily, and it is such a fun watch for that reason.
Especially on a sunny day like this. I'm sure I'm going to spend some time out later on in the day. My wife is out on the patio reading, and I'm sure I'm going to go out there and join her. And it's just going to be a fun watch to be wearing out there.
That's
That'd be cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a good time. I'll be digging into some serious yard work after being away last weekend, so I will be changing out of the VPC Type 37 for the trusty Casio G-Shock, which is
That's
my watch
perfect.
of choice for especially weed eating with a gravel driveway.
Yeah.
That's not something I want to do with a watch that I want to take care of. And I'm not super precious about my watches. I find them to be really able to handle work in the shop here, a lot of different things. But if I'm going to do something like go out and split firewood for an afternoon or run a weed eater around gravel, I'm definitely going to go for the G-Shock. Or at least if I'm pretty precious actually. I love my Seiko Tuna, which has a mineral crystal and is
Yeah.
quartz and could handle both of those activities for sure. But I do like to protect that mineral crystal on that watch, which is really not in the spirit of the thing, but I do really like it as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that G-Shock you have, that's the made in Japan, but not the most recent made in Japan one. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So
Does
I,
it have a
I'm
model number or something?
I think it's a 5600. It's the original square
Right.
shape, but made in Japan. It has the screw in case back as opposed to the screw on case back. So
Yeah.
um, all the specs remain the same. It's probably a little thicker because of that screw in case back, I think. It
Right.
does feel like it sits up a little higher on the wrist than other G-Shock squares that I've worn. Um, One real difference is the legibility of the screen. Something about the LCD arrangement on that watch, I think, is a little better. People have written about it. It is a
Yeah.
thing, but I can't quite explain what it is. But yeah, I love that watch. And when I put it on, I'm always like, you know,
Perfect.
this
Perfect.
is a blast. Yeah.
Do you know what's different between that and that most recent Made in Japan that came out?
I don't actually.
Yeah, we'll look into that. But just such a cool watch. Um, yeah. So when did you start? Let me ask you this. Let me go on a little tangent. When did you start doing yard work this spring? Because I've only mowed once in Denver.
I think this will be I think this will be my third mowing.
Yeah.
However, I started late and were we traveling? We were traveling and I actually hired someone to mow the first time.
Okay.
So
S-
honestly, at this point, I should have probably mowed 5 times.
So you started in March or started in April?
Yeah, so started probably the end of March or beginning of April.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've only mowed once here in Denver, so yeah.
things grow well here. It's been a nice spring. I don't think it's been a normally wet spring.
Yeah.
Um, and it is very green. And we do, just when we went to Michigan last weekend and we took a trip to North Carolina early in April. Um, and when you come back into Kentucky from being out of the state at this time of year, it's always like someone's messed with the contrast or the vibrance of your
The colors
spring.
look unreal. When you're flying in, and I have a direct flight to Lexington, which I just love, but every time I fly in this time of year, the colors look fake. It
Yeah,
looks,
it's
it
true.
looks, it looks unreal. Like the saturation is too high. Like I need to go back into Photoshop and turn down the saturation a little bit. It's a little bit too
Exactly.
high, but it's definitely has worked wonders for my allergies to move out west. So I do miss those transitionary seasons in Kentucky. But man, my allergies are way better out here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what else has been on your mind? Do you have a watch you've been thinking about? Something you might want to talk about?
So I reached out to Marin Instruments and let them know that that I had mentioned their watches in our last little tabs open section on the podcast, and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool." And so when I looked at their current website, I noticed that they had a taupe version now of that same skin diver, and man, there's just something about taupe. Even just the word taupe is great, but it's a really cool color, and the bracelet that they have it on is really pretty fantastic. So yeah, I've been thinking about that, and then I guess with all the traveling and stuff, I do a lot of my watch consuming content on YouTube, and I was sort of catching up on some stuff, and Adrian Barker had a really cool Explorer 2 video out where he compared Christopher Ward Explorer style watch with the new Tudor Black Bay Pro in opaline, and then two other actual Explorer 2s, the 40 millimeter one and the newest, the latest version that's the 42 millimeter with that really awesome pop of orange. Like I like that. I like the new Explorer 2 quite a bit. Um, but um, and especially that orange. I love that orange. But the when I think about the previous version, that 40 millimeter one is really kind of the perfect sweet spot. And it reminds me of that weekend that we spent in. Uh, I don't remember. I was traveling, and then you had a work thing up in Cincinnati, and Felix and I met you, and there was a student craft event. But then we spent the day getting some food and comparing Seikos because we were all wearing Seikos, I think, that weekend. And then we went to a couple ADs. And then, um, gosh, it's funny that I'm just now thinking about this now that we're talking about it. But I remember I tried on somewhere we went and they had that Explorer 2 in white that was a 40 millimeter version. Um, so yeah, there's something about that watch that to me has always been um, um, that would probably be a Grail watch for me and an Explorer too. Although I will say that the things that I love about it, um, you know, I sort of feel like when this new um, um, Pro came out with the Opaline dial, like I have to say that kind of does everything for me because the heritage thing is there. The toolness, like a lot of people complain about the slab-sidedness, but I sort of feel like that's kind of what that watch is for. Now, maybe because it is 39 millimeters, maybe it does wear a little heavy, but I don't think that that's going to be an issue. I've tried on the black version and it fits great on my wrist. It really does. Um, and plus, that T-fit clasp arguably is an improvement. So I sort of feel like that new Pro and Opaline would kind of do it for me. I don't know. That's not really on my, uh, that's not going to be a purchase anytime soon. But that watch has definitely been ever since I saw it, and I really like the way the indices are framed in black. It's just a really pretty watch, and I think the tool-tasticness of it really shines. It's a great watch. Um, so yeah, that one's been and that video that Adrian Barker did was a great comparison. And he talked about, the he did a point system and sort of just, gave different watches points and what they and uh they were all great and he sort of led you to come to your own conclusion and I sort of did that I think that Tudor Black Bay Pro in white is kind of a great watch.
Yeah, I do really like that watch myself. And I think for me, the dial of that Tudor, the dial, handset, indices is my favorite without reservation of the four watches that he shared. I do prefer the look of the whole Tudor dial to the Rolex version.
Yeah.
Just 100% personal preference. I do love that earlier case of the 40 millimeter. I think that's a really comfortable case. When we got to see that one, you mentioned that trip we took to Cincinnati, and the store that we went to was called Richter and Phillips.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
How'd you remember that?
I don't know. Earlier before this call, I couldn't remember my Gmail password, so the wrong things are clogging up the brain cells. But it has a great store. Just as a quick sideline, I've never purchased anything there. We didn't make any purchases that day, but the salesperson was so kind to us
Yes.
and just kept bringing out watches. I think he enjoyed the energy that you and I and Felix shared.
Yeah,
Um,
I think especially having Felix there. I mean, all of it was cool that there's these future podcasters as one, but I think it's really Felix to have a kid there that was so excited about this stuff, and they were extremely generous with time and the watches they let us look at.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he sort of rushed to the back and brought out the big Rolex Ultra Deep. The I think that's what it's called. The very,
Yeah,
the one that's whatever 25 millimeters thick, and but he was just eager for us to put that on our wrist and try it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was clear to him, and we made no pretense that we were there to make a purchase.
right.
But he did really support our enthusiasm and took great care of us. So
That was such
um,
a great. I think somewhere I have pictures still from that day, so I'll post those. But yeah, that was a really fun time, and I'm glad that you remember their names so you can give them a little bit of a shout out because that's, if you're an enthusiast and are willing to buy and ready to buy, like that's a great place to go. Yep.
Yeah, totally. I would not hesitate to make a purchase there, and they did take such good care of us. And actually, on the Case in Point website, you have a photo of Felix and I. I think I have him trying on the Pelagos.
Yeah.
That was at that store, so that's where that photo
Okay.
was taken. Was at that store. That was that day. Um, and yeah, you kind of hear some horror stories about ADs and the process of buying watches. And um, I've never experienced that personally. I'm not saying it's not a real thing, but the experience at this store was first class. Um,
Yep.
and
Yep.
again, they don't they don't know nor would they care that we're talking about this. It's just we had a genuinely good experience there.
Yeah, this is not transactional in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, I do remember that one. It's a 16570 now that for some reason that popped into my head. But those 40 millimeter Explorer 2s are about as perfect of. And what's interesting too is I think there's a market of folks and not, no throwing no shade, but there's a market of folks who get to a point in their career or or for whatever reason think it's time in their life to buy a Rolex. And this watch to me exemplifies everything that isn't that. Like this is the still tool watch, the maybe the only sort of real tool watch still that Rolex kind of that they make. That's in that old DNA of Rolex as not flex watches. Um, so in that sense, that's kind of really the only Rolex that maybe interests me. Maybe, obviously the OP, which hasn't changed much. Um, and even the Explorer has gotten a little bit dressy. I wouldn't call it a flex watch. I mean, I would still take a Explorer any day.
Yep.
Um, but there's something about the Explorer 2 that still feels like it's just a tool watch offering from Rolex, which is not something that they do much
Yep.
anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a great watch. I really do think it's a great watch. And I do think that while the Tudor is still a very expensive watch that's beyond what you and I have a history of spending on watches, it makes that look and quality level and functionality accessible to a whole nother group of people. And I think that Tudor is a great watch. I'm glad you brought it up today.
Yeah. Yeah. What's been the watch on your mind this week?
Yeah, there's been two, and you'll notice a trend for people who are keeping track, which is probably like my mom and your brother. Um,
Yeah. It's on
but
brand for Aaron.
the Zenith Pilot is a watch that's really been on my mind. Steel case, similar bezel actually to the VPC with that sort of flat brushed steel bezel, really legible black dial, bold white letters, appears to have amazing loom, um, date window down at 6 o'clock, interesting striped texture on the dial itself, uh, El
Oh
Primero
man,
movement.
this is
Um,
cool.
I think it's a really lovely watch. And I think what is consistent, the watches I've spoken about on the podcast as sort of watches I'm dreaming about, you have the Zen 856, which is all about being easy to read. You've got the Laco Flieger Pro, again, same thing. And now here's the Zenith Pilot, which is really a modern version of that Flieger watch that we talked about last week. Um, The
Yep.
indices are bold, clear, truly white on the black dial. I think it's a beautiful looking watch. Although I will loop back and I will say, in all fairness, I have never had the chance to put that watch on my wrist. When I look at the side profile, I question how well and how comfortable it would fit.
Hmm.
Um, I as opposed to the VPC, not holding them up as the gold standard, but the way that they've taken the care to angle those lugs down to wrap that watch around the wrist, I think that the Zenith might feel a little bit like a big flat plate on
Yep.
my wrist, but it's a beautiful watch, and I really look forward to having the chance to try one on.
Yeah. Because so that's 40 millimeter again, like
Yep,
that's a lot of metal,
it is.
especially because it has a kind of a big bezel.
Yep, it does. It's a bold watch for sure. Um, but that dial has sort of got me a little bit entranced. Um, and so, yeah, I've been
Well,
thinking about that quite a bit.
that's a cool watch. And it's interesting. I couldn't place my finger, but there is definitely a through line between all these watches that you like.
Yeah.
What would you say that is?
Well, I do like watches that are very legible. I think
Yeah.
that's why I love the Seiko Tuna is such a legible watch. It's amazing handset, big, bold indices, amazing quantities of lume. I like to wear a watch. I wear a watch when I sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it goes to one of the main functions a watch serves for me in that it helps me to sever my connection to my telephone.
Yeah.
So if I wake up at 3 a.m., I like to be able to look at the watch on my wrist and know it's 3 a.m. And it saves me from reaching over and picking up my phone,
Yep.
which could get a whole bunch of other thoughts going through my head. Now, anyone with the slightest bit of valid criticism is going to suggest that I buy a 5.99 alarm clock on Amazon and be done with all this silliness.
I'll be sure
Um,
to edit that part out.
but uh, but yeah, so I think there is something about legibility being easy to read at a glance. Um, it is my one to speak in true fairness. I have the Dove Gray VPC, so it's a fairly there's not a lot of contrast between the hands and the dial surface. And I said this. I mean, I did a very small write up for some people who asked some questions on the TGN Slack, and I do wonder if I had had the opportunity to hold the Delft Blue VPC in my hand or this Dove Gray, if I would have chosen the Delft Blue because of that contrast. Um,
Yeah.
the Dove Gray is beautiful. When I look at it from just a purely aesthetic standpoint, I just can't imagine what could be better. But when I think about it from a functional standpoint, I want a little bit more contrast in the dial and the indices.
Yeah. That blue is absolutely gorgeous. I will say that if we had, for some reason, recorded podcast the next day and I had my tab that I couldn't close, I was studying your watch after we recorded the last session, mostly because I was, wanting to do some Instagram posts. But man, that blue one really kind of caught my eye and I had that window open for a day or two. That
Yeah, it's
was
a
just
beautiful watch.
great watch. It kind of like maybe we need another one in the family.
And I'm excited. My understanding at least, and I'm not 100% sure, the VPC Type 39, I believe, will have a black or a dark gray dial.
Uh,
And I suspect with the care they take, thinking about the function of the watch, there'll be quite a bit of contrast between the indices and the dial on that one. So
yeah, that'll
that
be
may be
cool
the
to
one
see.
that scratches the itch. We'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
that'll be cool to see.
and
And then you mentioned when you were talking about that watch that you probably wear it the most, but had said that the Willard was your favorite.
I
Is
did say
that?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me
I
how that
didn't
makes
I
sense.
I didn't know that though. Like I didn't know that that was the case. I just
Yeah,
sort of assumed just how much you wear, I just sort of figured it was the other way around.
yeah, yeah. I don't, and luckily I don't have to really pick or name a favorite, although I did choose to in that previous podcast. That Willard
That was news
is,
to me.
yeah, I do love it. I really do love it. I almost put it on this morning. I almost put it on yesterday. I think about it quite a bit when I'm not wearing it.
Yeah.
Um,
It looks so great too
and
on that bracelet you have on there. And
yeah, I have it on a Stabe mesh bracelet, which is a whole nother saga because they don't make a 19 millimeter Stabe. So I had to do some customization of a 20 millimeter to
well,
make
good
that
thing you have a
work.
workshop to do it.
And yeah, and luckily it all came out well because those are not inexpensive bracelets.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing with that watch, and it kind of speaks to I think why I for sure and why a lot of people grow to treasure things is that watch, the Willard wasn't keeping amazing time. It was fine. It was gaining about 9 seconds a day when I purchased it. I purchased it used, as I did the VPC and really every watch that I've had. Um, and I opened it up and spent a fair bit of time messing with the regulation and getting it sort of dialed in, which was a blast. And
Something I would never do.
luckily I was successful with that process. And that just adds another level of connection and care. I think it's kind of how we
Absolutely.
sometimes feel about an older car that needs work, occasionally, but um, it's clear how to do that work and you can get in there. It's something that you can wrap your mind around. Not that I'm a watchmaker or understand all of it, but the regulation piece um, is fairly accessible. I don't think I would do it for anyone else because I would be afraid of messing up someone else's watch. But
Sure.
for me, it deepened my connection with that watch going through that process. And now it keeps essentially, especially if I'm active, I think that watch does fluctuate in its timekeeping quite a bit through the
Right.
how much the mainspring is wound. But if
Yeah.
I'm active, that watch keeps perfect time. If I'm a
That's
little
amazing.
bit inactive, it could lose a second or two a day,
Yeah.
um,
Which
which
is
is
so
just
incredible. Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. And so yeah, that sort of deepened my relationship with that watch. And I do think for a big, bold dive watch, the Willard is just perfect for me. I love it. I love that it's a Seiko. I love the company. I love the
Yeah.
history. I love that it's an amazingly high quality object without the baggage of some of the brands that are considered to be more luxury objects.
Right.
Um, it's a company that clearly respects craft. Um, and yeah, so that is, I do think if I had to just give everything else up and have one, which I'm glad I don't, that would be the one that I would keep.
Yeah, I think this is a topic maybe for the next podcast. I want to talk about like if you just had to have one. Uh that is that obsession I just can't leave behind. But I will say one more thing, and I think it's just a difference between me and you. I appreciate things that come, hit me from an aesthetic standpoint, but I am no mechanic of any shape or form, or I feel like I'm all thumbs. I don't have the patience. I think I do have like an understanding, oh, that makes that do that, but I just know that I don't have the wherewithal to be a tinkerer. And I go back to when I was a 20-year-old dude. I had in Miami, I had a 1965 Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. Now, if there's a car that any guy can start working on and tinkering in and learn, it's that Volkswagen, that rear mount engine. And even then, I took it to Eric over at German Car Repair, and he loved working on that car. But I'm just not that person. As much as I wish I were that person, I am never going to open up the backs of my watches and tinker around.
Yeah, well, I think that's completely okay. And it's, I will say it is ridiculous in any logical sense that I found that Willard frustrating gaining 9 seconds a day. Like, I'm assuming that people listening to that podcast, they understand like that is an amazing, that watch beats 28,800 times an hour for 24 hours a day. And the error rate that causes you to be off just 9 seconds is like, there's nothing else in my life that's that reliable and that accurate. But
Right. Oh
knowing
my
that it
God.
was capable of even more
Right.
made me want to see if I could have a hand in helping it, be the best watch that it could be, I guess. And we are different in that way. I do think that the pursuit of mechanical excellence that's attached to watchmaking is a big part of what draws me into the hobby.
Yeah.
And I do spend a lot of time searching out articles that talk about the very, very small improvements that have been made over the decades to how watches work, to how the regulation system operates. And I think that the fact that we can wear these things through our lives,
Yeah.
we can do some quick work in the shop. Even though I was saying earlier, like I don't chop firewood for a day in a mechanical watch. I don't, throw gravel around with a mechanical watch on. But they work amazingly well for an amazingly long period of time. Take my dad's watch every day for 60 years.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And that watch keeps time with gears and springs. Like,
Yeah.
again, I'm no watchmaker. I could never make a watch, but I understand, right? You wind up a spring, it releases
Yeah.
with a regulator, it goes through a gear train, and those hands go around almost perfectly every single hour.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. Maybe if I can get Brian to just listen to that last segment, maybe we can turn him around because it is amazing. Because I think everybody understands how I approach watches, and they're both valid. Although I would have, if it were not part of this conversation, I would have prefaced what I'm about to say by belittling my experience and sort of elevating your experience. But to me, it's all about how I feel. How I throw on a watch, and sometimes I've thrown on a watch out of my watch box and I haven't even set the time yet. Like I just put it on with the wrong time, just because I just love the way it looks and feels.
Yeah,
Now, once I'm getting around to my day and after I've made some coffee, I have to set the time. But there's times where I'll do that, and this is pretty revealing. That's the first time I've ever said that out loud. But I'll throw on a watch with the wrong time on, just because I love how. And I think that what's cool is that both those things are valid, and
absolutely.
and what's so amazing about watches is how we could sort of come at it from completely opposite angles,
Yeah.
but they're both valid and great things about watches.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll both express a lot of opinions on this podcast. We have already, and we'll continue to do that. But there's no wrong answer as to why these things are great and as to which watch feels great to any individual,
Yeah.
right? The things that I love are different to the things that you love. It's really fun for us to talk about them with each other so I can understand your perspective and you can understand mine. That's fun. We don't
Yeah.
have to agree. We often don't.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
But there are just so many things about these pieces of jewelry that we wear that, again, they're all valid.
Yeah.
They bring different people different levels of joy. What makes me excited today is going to be different in 2 years when it comes to watches. Right? It's going to be a
Yeah.
different watch. It's going to be
That's
a
a good
different
point.
dial. There's going to
Good
be
point.
something different about the way that it works. I think I will always be fascinated with the way the mechanics work. And when there's an evolution in that mechanics, like with the new Rolex that came out this year, that movement I think is unbelievable. And I think it's a
Right.
huge deal with the new Seiko that came out this year, which is a mechanical watch accurate to within 20 seconds a year, right? I don't
Absurd.
know. Yeah, I don't know how many seconds there are in a year. Someone else can do that math, right? But there's a ton of them.
Right.
And right, there's nothing else that I could process a million times and
Right.
only make 20 errors out of that
Right.
million activities, right? It is
Wow.
unbelievable. And
Wow.
these things
Yeah.
are doing that while people are walking, running, setting it on the nightstand, putting it on their wrist, like all it's bouncing around and moving in all these different ways. And it's still that accurate. I mean, come on. This
Yeah.
is
That is
uh
crazy.
this is a great human accomplishment and sort of again going way too far. But it does capture to me like what the human mind and the human hands are capable of.
Yeah.
And as someone who, spends my days in a career in craft, I think the wristwatch is one of the finest expressions of craft.
Yeah.
It has everything all wrapped up in this tiny thing. Again, like we said last week, that you can take with you all over the world and to all sorts of different events. In a way, my background is as a chair maker, and
Yeah.
I've got a chair sitting right off to my left. I love it. It's beautiful. Glad that I made it. You know, thank God for everyone else. I don't haul it around with me to dinner parties.
Right.
Right?
Right. That's
It's
such a
a
great point.
yeah, and the wristwatch again, and I try not to show it to people at dinner parties either, but it can be there with me, right? And I can glance down
Yeah.
at it and have that joy myself. And other pieces of art and crafts are just not quite that portable.
Yeah. I think that's the, I will just tie in one more time to sort of that if you were to describe to a caveman that we made these instruments that do these things, in my mind, we're carrying this thing that looks like some sort of machine. But the fact that these things are also beautiful and also uh, can look elegant, can look dressy, can look robust, can look, look different ways depending on what we're doing. What the hell?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
amazing.
so cool. That is so
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
I joked about Brian because we mentioned that we met through our mutual friend, and he really just doesn't care at all about watches. But every once in a while, we think, let's try to. So I think this last conversation, if nothing, and the thing is, like, I can see, listeners, and I do know that he listens because I see that Danville, Kentucky shows up on our listeners. So that's really, yeah, I think he enjoys the fact that his two old friends are sitting here and talking, and so he listens in. But what a bore it must be for him.
He's a good friend to put up with us on the
Yeah,
podcast and in real life as well.
yeah.
Uh,
All right. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. I do want to touch a little bit next week on the sort of the one watch collection thing.
yeah, I love it. I look
Yeah,
forward to it. And man, it's wonderful to see you today. Thanks
yeah.
everybody who's been listening. And
Thank you,
Mark, I hope you
Brian.
have a great, yeah, thank you, Brian. Mark, have a great week.
Yeah. All right. Take care.